Thanks for joining us today. We've got a 2010 Prevost H345 in the shop. Customer just bought it and he wants it checked out. He asked me to do a DOT inspection on it because he wants to make sure that the bus is right, make sure everything's good, make sure he doesn't have any problems, and make sure the bus isn't unsafe. So I asked him if I could film it because we don't get a lot of 2010s in here where I got some extra time where I can film them. Usually we fix them real quick and they go back out the door. So 2010 should be new enough that maybe we won't find a lot of stuff, but we'll see. Let's do a DOT inspection. Go ahead and turn the headlights on. All right, turn signal. All right, shut the door. All right, high beam. Okay, clearance lights are working. Honk the horn. Horn. All right, wipers. All right. All right, let's get under the bus. Ooh, I already see some issues. All right, so we're gonna use the minion on the stick, and I don't know if right here you can notice, but this thing right here is completely lit. We're no longer attached, so that needs to be fixed. This airbag is pretty dry rotted. It's a pretty bad airbag right there. That is a blowout risk. We've got some heat checking on the rotor. It's not too bad. All right, shake steering. We've got a little bit of play in that joint right there. But we've got this drag link right here. It's absolutely terrible. Look how wore out that is very dangerous. That socket's about to come apart right there. All right, let's look at this joint. Look how bad this joint is. See, watch this joint right here. All right, shake steering. All right, do you see how wore out that joint is? That is definitely a hazard. All right. Radius rod bushings are dry rotted, showing some cracking. What we'll do is I like to grab the shocks and try and move them and check for leaking, but the shocks look like they're in decent shape. At least that one does. Same with this one. Even the bushings look decent. I can't move them, so we're okay there. We definitely need to address that sway bar link and that drag link up there. All right, and I made in a separate video how common those sway bar links are. That's a very common problem. And if you look at them, they used to have the red bushings in them. And what had most likely happened is somebody had replaced them and they tightened them up too tight. If you over torque those nylon bushings, or not nylon, they're made out of like a more like hard material. If you over tighten them, what can happen is as they twist, they'll tear, and then they'll come apart like that. So proper torque is important there. Shut the door and drive up. All right, cut it off. Mash the brake. Okay. Left turn signal. Okay. Right turn signal. Okay. We've got a rear differential leak. This doesn't fail inspection, but it probably needs to be addressed. And here's this airbag right here. Look at the airbags. They're pretty dry rotted, split, and they need to be addressed. The sway bar links, yeah, they're wore out on the drive axle too. Let's see if I can get up there and show you guys. This airbag too. Both sides of this airbag. Pretty much needs airbags all the way around. They've definitely got some age on them. This shock right here looks like it's been leaking. And if you can look at the bushing itself, there's a shock bushing there. See how dry rotted that shock bushing is? It's not terrible, but it does need to be addressed. Look at these tag bags. These are worse than the fronts. How dry rotted those bags are. Those are pretty bad. They're blowout risk. Customer did complain that the bus is leaning over on the driver's side. But, you know, with the dry rotted airbags, it doesn't surprise me. Let's see if we can find a leak somewhere. But these Prevost on these Norgan valves, we'll pull the fender off and we'll take a look at them, see if we can find something leaking. I like to do a pretty good healthy mixture of soap and water. Kind of helps you find your issues. You'll see I've sprayed them down and let them sit for a few minutes and come back and check them. Got some kind of rigged up stuff here just hanging. Looks like they added an extra solenoid or something. I'm not quite sure what the purpose of that was, but it's just kind of hanging there and zip tied up there. It's probably not the ideal thing by the road and everything, all the grime. We do have a wheel seal leaking on this side. Yeah, it's hard to see. You've got all that oil that's up in that hub right there. Needs to be inspected. Overall, it's not in the worst shape. It does need some work. That drag link is definitely a very dangerous thing that needs to be taken care of. That drag link can pop off and you'll lose all steering. And this big bus is not something you want to lose the steering on. All right, so we found a leak right here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a couple things. I don't know if y'all hear that leak. Well, come up here with me. This is one of the complaints that the customer was talking about. So y'all hear how I cover that up? Now watch this. All right, crank the bus up and air it up till the dryer pops off. All right, cut it off. All right. So if you notice, nothing's leaking, or it's got a little bit of air coming through it. Do me a favor, pump the brakes down. All right. So now that he's pumped the brakes down, the governor has kicked in and asked for air. Crank it back up. All right, shut it off. And you notice how that dryer is leaking now. So that dryer is going to have to be replaced. And that's one of the leaks right there. All right. Let's look at the builds. Overall, not too bad. Okay, how are you guys doing? It's Future Brandon. We just did the DOT inspection y'all probably saw it just a few seconds ago. So now we're gonna do a little bit of an update on that bus. All right, so we're gonna look at a couple things that we found while doing the work on it and fixing it. First thing is once we pulled the tires off, we could see the fronts of the rotors. And let's see if I can get y'all in there. All right, you can see the disc almost the entire length. It's hard to see. The cracks are almost the entire length of the disc. That's pretty bad. This is pretty wore out, and you can see an even better image on these airbags right here. How dry rotted they are. Also, another thing we noticed that I didn't notice in the pit, if you look, See where the steering stabilizer is supposed to be? It's broke off. It's missing completely. We've already got these bushings repaired. So you remember the bushings were missing. Now this bar is nice and stable. You can see it doesn't move like it was before. Let's come to the other side. We've already got the new drag link in. So you can see that drag link. Coming to this side over here. As you can see, the new drag link is in. The old one, we'll go take a look at that. You can look at the brake pads. They're in really bad shape. Let's go look at the drag link that we pulled off. Now, we actually had to pop the socket back in there when we were using the pickle fork to get it out. The drag link was so wore out, it popped out of the joint. So we just kind of tapped it back in there. But you can see here's our last couple weeks worth of work right here. Here is the drag link. That side wasn't too bad, but this side is the one that popped out. And you can see, like, I could probably, if I had a pair of vice grips, I could pull it out. That's how wore out that drag link was. That's a pretty wore out drag link. And you know, driving down the road, that's something that you could probably notice also. You'll notice a little bit of play. Maybe if you're driving down the road and you hit a pothole and it seems like the steering wheel has to jerk quite a bit before, like you'll see the steering wheel will jerk back and forth, or the steering wheel will move before you actually feel the coach move. That, and it will be pulling, or it'll make you feel like you've constantly got to drive it. I'll show you guys the steering stabilizer that's got to go on there with the part that's actually broken. So this is the piece that's actually broke off and missing. This is the steering stabilizer, so we're going to put that on there and make sure everything's good to go. What we got left is we got to put the steering stabilizer on it, and then we're going to basically change these brakes out. We'll pull the calipers, pull the rotors. We'll make sure that the pins are in good shape. We'll make sure the unitized bearings. See, this is a unitized hub. Best way you could tell if a hub is unitized or not is, you notice that you can't put oil in it. Like you could see that there's a ring of bolts and you can't put oil in it. Let's walk over to this older Prevost. Do you see how this one has a cap on it where you could service the oil? So that's an oil bath bearings, whereas the other one is unitized. Update video. So last time we talked about this bus was it needed to get the spindle off of it because they didn't put the spindle in properly, put the wrong spindle in, and it ruined the bearings. So we are trying to get the spindle out. There will be a video coming out of us trying to pull this spindle out soon, so y'all be looking forward to that, but I'll show you the setup. So we welded these bolts onto the end of the spindle to try and press it out, and we've also welded this lug on there to try and get it out. So we're gonna have to put some serious tension on this spindle because it's, you know, it's not in there like it should be. This bolt, this one right here, so this is the bolt that basically locks into the back of the spindle. And I'll show you, I'll carry you in the shop and show you. Sorry, y'all are getting some of this bonus footage. But there will be a video coming out where us trying to pull that spindle out, so be looking forward to that. So here is the new spindle. Okay, this is the proper spindle. This is what they call the wiper. All right, so this right here is what they call the wiper. This is what the seal rides on. Okay, and this spindle is pressed this amount of width into the axle, and it needs to go all the way back so this bolt goes in, and then you tighten this bolt up and it holds it in, even though what's holding it in is the pressing of this right here. So this bolt, they didn't get this bolt in to show you how far this spindle was out and improperly installed. They took this bolt and put silicone all around this washer on both sides, silicone around here, which we've already peeled it off. They've put silicone on it, and stuck it in the hole. This wasn't even in the back of this, not even one thread. So that's how far forward that spindle was, and that's the reason they made that spacer on the front end, was so that because when you slid the bearings in, because this was so far forward, you slid the bearings in and you tightened up the nut. Well, once you got the nut tight, it was bottomed out and the bearing was loose because it wasn't as far back as what it was supposed to be. The hub was too far forward. I hope that makes sense. But anyway, they made that spacer and they were like, oh, it will work. Well, what that did was it actually moved the wheel out, moved the hub out a little bit. And this wasn't making good contact once they put the spacer in there. And that's what allowed all the oil to run out of it. It's a shame. If you don't know how to fix something, and I say this to all the mechanics out there, and all the mechanics, and I say this to everyone out there, if you don't know how to fix something or you screw something up, customers will stay with you for a lifetime if you do one of two things. One, tell the truth and say, look, we didn't put the spindle in right. We're going to have to redo this, and eat the cost. This is a small price to pay to do that and have a customer for a lifetime than it is to improperly install something and hurt somebody or just, take their money. The second thing is be like, look, we don't do that stuff here. You need to take it to somebody that specializes in that or is good at it. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. It's okay to do that. Anyway, I figure I would make this short, give you guys some bonus footage. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed that 2010 DOT inspection. I know some of the views were crazy on that video. I used a camera I don't normally use. It was a DJI Osmo Pocket something, and it has a gimbal on the end of it. Well, the gimbal really didn't appreciate being in the pit. It did not like it, and it was just all over the place. I would be looking at something up here, and it would be looking down here. And then I'd look down at the camera, and it didn't even look at what I wanted to look at. So I apologize. We have since fixed that, so hopefully going forward, you won't see any of the craziness on the camera angles. But if you've been with me this long, I appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe. And another thing, I'm going to say one more thing. I get a lot of people that's been making comments. They want to see the skid steers. They want to see the backhoe. They want to see the excavators. They want to see all that equipment. On this channel, I would like to focus on buses. Buses, buses, buses. You may see us use a piece of equipment. I may talk about a piece of equipment. But I'd like to keep this channel bus stuff only. But for all the other people out there, I was able to be convinced to make another channel. And if you like equipment, you like trucks, and you like that kind of stuff, you can go see that channel. It'll be linked in the description. In that channel, I'll be dressed in regular people clothes, and I'll just be out there chainsawing, mulching, reviewing equipment, working on equipment. That'll be a different aspect. This will be bus stuff, and then that will be all that other stuff. So if you guys are interested in it, the channel is called Carolina Mulch and Machine. I appreciate it. If you've been with us this long, thanks. I hope you guys have a good day, good weekend, good month. Appreciate it, guys.